Do you like Danganronpa?
Yes, I think I do.
Then you'll love this game. Your Turn to Die, now available on Steam. Hello everyone, welcome back to the show where I talk about whatever I want, whenever I want. Today I want to talk about a crazy underrated game that I haven't heard much hype about outside of its dedicated fanbase. Your Turn to Die, or Kimi Ga Shine in Japanese, is a visual novel created by Nankidai and was released on August 28th, 2017 using, just like a certain game I've covered on this channel, RPG Maker MV. Now, like I've said before, this game's fanbase isn't that big, but the people who do know it primarily know it for its similarities to Danganronpa, which is coincidentally how I also found it. I still think it is a very different game, and honestly could be considered a better game in my opinion. But I love these two games very dearly, so it's honestly hard to decide for sure. But enough of the rambling, let's get into the story, shall we? Your Turn to Die follows a character named Sara Chidouin, who's an honestly really tall high school, but ginger girl. As she walks home from school one day, she's met with her friend Joe as they walk home together. Meet Joe Tazuna, probably one of the best characters in this game, my personal favorite, and a character that's literally impossible to hate. You'll see a lot of him in this video. But anyways, the reason they walk home together in the first place is because of this weird-ass stalker that Joe just casually mentions. Hi, son, bro. On their way to Sarah's house, Joe casually talks about his really fun day with Sarah's good friend Ryoko, and the three of them establish themselves as kind of like a trio friend group of sorts. Oh yeah, Ryoko, let's go on a date and not tell Sarah. And as they approach Sarah's home, they start to see some dude just kind of chilling in the headlight. Now, believe it or not, given the fact that Joe just mentioned a creepy stalker, I think it's pretty easy to guess who that guy is. Here, I'll give you guys a couple seconds to see if you can figure it out. Well, I'm not telling you, so moving on. The alleged quote-unquote stalker pretty much forces Sarah and Joe to go into her own home. Upon walking in, Sarah sees her own mother literally laying on the floor passed out. If that isn't scary enough, she can't even find her father. What a fucking deadbeat, bro. Oh my god. And to make matters even worse than that, when she finally gets into her own room, just for at least some kind of safety, she gets grabbed by a bunch of weird-ass pedophile hands. And the game goes black. Nice! The hook of Kimi Ga Shine is the death game itself, however, which I've yet to actually talk about. The contestants are forced to compete in a death game in which they're forced to decide on who's to be sacrificed via a majority vote. Of course, with games like this, come an in-depth story with many mysteries to keep the player interested. The story of this game is really what pushes the limits about whether or not it's better or worse than Danganronpa. And I should have mentioned this at the start, but these two are very different games, so comparing them isn't fair, but if I were to, this is what I would really say pushes the limit on what makes it better or worse than it. Now, of course, deciding on who's to be sacrificed in each main game isn't the only point of the main game. The main game itself is actually fundamentally a card game, where different roles are assigned to you depending on your card. And unlike, you know, your average card game, these games pretty much depict what's going to happen to you. Life or death. There are 4 different cards you can get: the Keymaster, Sage, Sacrifice, and Commoner. The Keymaster has no ability, but if they're chosen to be sacrificed, everyone will die. The only other way they can survive the game is if the Sage or Commoner is voted to be killed. The Sage has the ability to pinpoint who the Keymaster is. The main problem is that anybody can claim to be the Sage, but they can't actually lie about who the Keymaster is, so it makes a bunch of confusion on who's the Sage, and if we can figure out who the Sage is, they have to be telling the truth. But if we don't know who the Sage is, anyone could say that anyone's the Keymaster to protect them. The only way for them to survive is if a Commoner is chosen to die. And the final interesting one, the Sacrifice. The Sacrifice's ability grants them the value of 2 votes, but the nerf is so bad. I mean, think about the jet nerfs from a couple years ago. No! How could you do this to my baby? Oh my god, it's so bad! No! It's that bad. If you want to survive, the only way to make that happen is if you get everyone to vote for you. Otherwise, you die. Correction on that, it's not actually everyone vote for you, but you need to get the majority vote to be picked to be, killed. Pretty much, the sacrifice dies no matter what, unless they're voted to be killed. If they're voted, everyone else dies, except for one other person, which the sacrifice can choose to go with them to survive. Finally, the commoner card. They have no abilities, and the only way they can survive is if a different commoner or a sage is chosen to die. This is by far the least interesting card because it's kind of like a filler, so that way everyone doesn't have a role, because the main point of the game is trying to figure out who the sacrifice and keymaster is. This is by far the most interesting method for a card game I've ever seen, and the whole gimmick is one of a kind. I love it. The main game, however, is really focused on plot dumping and putting together information you and the characters gather to try to uncover the mystery of what's going on in this weird facility. Then, also trying to figure out which card everyone has so they know who to vote for. And trust me, it gets intense. Oh my god! Holy that scared the fuck out of me, bro. In these intense scenes, the music really likes to show off itself. I think it's amazing. If this show has a rating system for this music, it'd easily get a 10 out of 10. The soundtrack, to me, is perfect. It has a lot of sad tracks, happy tracks, intense tracks. It does everything it needs to do to be able to feel the emotion I need in any moment. I would elaborate, but as you'd expect, certain songs come with certain spoilers, but I can show you some of the tracks during the main game, which are just amazing. So, yeah, that's Yourturntodie or Kimi Ga Shine. There's a lot more about this game that I would love to talk about, but it's totally in spoiler territory, so I can't. However, I hope you all liked this video because this is actually the first video being produced in 2024. So, new year, new me type shit. But anyways, thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.